Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. I'm John, and today I'm reviewing the 11th studio album, Music to be Murdered by the Detroit native rapper Eminem. It's a surprise release, as was 2018's Kamikaze, an album that I thought was his best in well over a decade. Sorry to the Marshall Mathers LP2 stands out there. Not that I think that's a bad album by any means. I just felt like Kamikaze was just such a compact, tight experience that was so pissed off and jaded after Revival got panned to hell and back. I was part of that panning. In fact, I cannot stand that record. I would even go as far as to say I low-key kind of hate that album, but I loved Kamikaze overall. I definitely feel like I liked it more than a lot of critics did. So I'm going into Music to be Murdered by, an Alfred Hitchcock-inspired record. I love that right off the bat. Kind of horrorcore. Slim Shady's back. It's right on the album cover. Even the inspiration, the way that M did this, it's a direct comparison to the 50s record from the iconic horror director Alfred Hitchcock himself. So does he continue his kill streak, or does he fall flat on his face? Let's unload and find out. Okay, so to settle into the actual bones of this release, the music, the tone, the sound, is it solid, is it scattered, is it all over the place? And right off the bat, I would say this feels a little bit like Eminem being kind of the dad that got a new smartphone and he's not entirely sure how to work it yet. Sometimes he does things right, but occasionally you'll just get like a weird text that doesn't make any sense. Music to be Murdered by, as the title would imply, kind of has horrorcore tendencies overall. It's certainly a hip-hop record first and foremost, but that is definitely a factor. There's some lines that are intended to be very comical or else tongue-in-cheek when they're delivered. He feels playful on this album, energetic even on some of the tracks like In Too Deep, but then there's also the more reflective cuts that see him kind of taking a look at life, where he's at this point, the beefs that he's had. And I do feel that he kind of circles the drain in places. He doesn't entirely move past some of these situations, like the MGK stuff, where it feels like he's saying he's leaving it behind, and it's like, we're kind of lingering here. You got him with Kill Shot, amazing song that I still listen to this day, but I guess let's not bring up MGK on like 3 or 4 tracks on the album. There's a wide range of guest appearances on the album, ranging from Terrible, Young M.A., to Questionable, Don Toliver, an artist that I had never previously heard of, but apparently he has some clout behind his name, and then some great like Royce da 5'9", Anderson .Paak. Those are fantastic. Q-tips on this record? Hell yeah, Black Thought as well, from The Roots. This album didn't show its teeth to me right away, but the pacing sounded smoother the more time that I spent with the album. It's just a little bit too long overall. That is the main thing. The boringness gets in its own way and acts like a roadblock. And there's no reason for this album to be over an hour. Like I said previously, I think Kamikaze worked really well because he got that anger out in a tight, compact 45-minute listen. Yet here, it just doesn't feel like Eminem has that much to say to merit an hour. When Eminem is in the zone, it's really hard to deny him. At this point in his career, he's spitting some of his fastest rhymes to date at age 47. He could run laps around some of his contemporaries, and that's impressive. There's some ridiculously catchy hooks on this album, from Those Kind of Nights with Ed Sheeran that sees M being a little bit more crude. A lot of people are saying that this should have been the collab that Ed and him did on Revival, and I'm inclined to agree because River was pretty much a snooze fest. Also, Stepdad, forgiving some of its corniness, I really do feel like that one's an earworm. Also, Leaving Heaven with Skylar Grey is a little bit more tender, but I really appreciate it. And Little Engine, that's another one that just really revs itself up. Dr. Dre producing, yeah, good stuff. And as far as the production on the album goes, like I mentioned, Dre is involved. He pretty much always is. And even though it's not all the tracks, he's not executive producer like he was for Kamikaze, it's still a great effort when he does pop up. And there is a wide-reaching scope of producers that have their hands on the album, and it feels like a few too many puppet strings are being pulled, but overall, no real complaints on that end. It's hit or miss with the Slim Shady alter ego. Some songs do it better than others, and it can be tough to tell when you're looking at Eminem or if you're just looking at a character, but probably some of the more outrageous lines are coming from Slim Shady. Of course, the horrorcore aspect is very cool. I like the overall concept of the album. Music to be Murdered by, the Alfred Hitchcock interludes and outros, those work really well. They actually wind you up in suspense and you're like, wow, this is a fantastic idea. How did somebody not do this before? But M does nail that in places, but also it can fall apart. It just doesn't entirely grip you like it probably should. Gotta talk about the monster in the room first, am I right? Godzilla featuring Juice WRLD, rest in peace, his first posthumous appearance on a record, is the first song that I'm gonna talk about because, wow, light bulb goes off in your head when M really starts spitting over 7 words a second faster than Rap God some are saying fastest of all time, and I probably wouldn't doubt that. His technical prowess is unmatched. He's a rap battler who can just go at it, go fast, and fast doesn't equal good, but here, I really do like what he's saying once I actually went over to Genius and read the words, because obviously my mind can't comprehend 7 words in a second. The Juice WRLD hook is okay. I was never really a fan of his, so it's okay. I'm kind of ambivalent on it. It's similar to the Don Toliver track on here, where it feels like M's a little bit out of his realm with some of the guests that he's working with. They're trying to bring in some of the auto-tune, and I just don't personally fuck with it all that much with M's style, but the production on Godzilla is such a stomping banger that I can't deny this track. Definitely one of my favorites of 2020 so far. As previously noted, Stepdad, slightly a little bit corny, but I love the hook. And again, the horrorcore is coming out to play in a major way. He's talking about murdering his stepdad, going back in time and doing this because obviously he's kind of started to forgive people like his mom. Headlights with Nate Ruess from Fun was a great track from LP2 in 2013. But this cut here sees him being like, hey, maybe my mom was like this because of the dude she was with, so I'm gonna kill my stepdad. It's just fun to kind of sing along to in a very twisted way. Twisting the narrative even further is Darkness, a song that sees Eminem trying to get inside of the mind of the shooter in Las Vegas 2017 massive tragedy at a Jason Aldean concert. And it's a very tough pill to swallow. I could see why some people would be like, this is a little too sensitive for me to listen to, but is it offensive? Absolutely not. In fact, it's got a great message to it at the end of the day, talking about mental health concerns, gun reform, and gun control. And if you don't believe that, look at the music video. Darkness as a track, though, I can't say that it's stellar. The Simon and Garfunkel sample, Hello Darkness, my old friend, it's kind of been played out at this point to me. I've heard that so many times from The Sound of Silence, and now it's just something that beats itself into your head, kind of droning on and on in the background of this song. And it's a somber piece. It's not bad by any means, but I don't think it's anywhere near to being the best on the album. The strongest back-to-back section on Music to be Murdered By starts with Stepdad and ends with Lock It Up. Of course, minus Marsh, a play on Marshall, or else Martian, as he says on the hook of this track. Why with that hook? Why is he trying to sound like Travis Scott? I understand maybe it's trying to be comical, but it doesn't work. It doesn't sound good. It sounds really, really bad, especially with those It's Lit ad-libs in the background. Again, this is M trying to blur the line between both worlds, and it kind of not working at all. But in that section, we do get Never Love Again and also Little Engine, both of which are co-produced by Dr. Dre. And the scratches on Little Engine especially, they really get to me. I love that kind of fast, chomping hook. And also Never Love Again, a tender track. M really pouring himself into this one. There's soul to that. It's not just sad, it's not just heart-wrenching or anything like that, but it's a reflection, and I would love to hear more like this in the future, especially with that production to back it up. It feels glossy, but not too overtly so. There's other tracks that I definitely do enjoy, some I feel a little bit more ambivalent on, but Leaving Heaven with Skylar Grey was actually a pretty beautiful piece, and the opening track, Premonition, the intro, he actually has something to say there, and it kind of caught me off guard with how good that track is. Sometimes it sucks because some people are like, oh, it's just the intro, and they skip past it. No, he actually has some bars here, but unfortunately, then we start to move into some of the negative feelings that I have towards a lot of the tracks on the album, and the first of those is track number 2. It features Young M.A., an artist that I do not at all care for whatsoever. It's called Unaccommodating, and she opens up this track, and it just feels like the most generic bullshit ever, talking about smoking backwoods, all this other shit, I'm out here in the streets. Okay, you know, I've heard it before, and then M's verse doesn't really sync up at all, so it just feels like a disjointed effort to open up the album. Ya Ya, featuring a slew of other guests, can get annoying. I like verses, but chorus is agitating. I like what's being said in some regards, but chorus is almost unforgivable. Ya, 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 it's too much. Farewell is one that has me almost biting my nails a little bit and cringing as I listen, because I feel that it just kind of reveals these intimate details that no one really asked for. M has a history of doing this with his romantic relationships, and he's like, why am I hooked on this girl? I don't know why. Don't suck that dude's dick. All these other things, and it just feels like a list of commands and white trash stereotypes. And I know Eminem's origin story, Detroit, the trailer park, everything like that. I've seen 8 Mile, but it still doesn't make songs like this any easier to stomach. Not a bad album overall, it's certainly better than what I initially pegged it for. If you can forgive some of the corniness, and if you just really enjoy Eminem overall, I don't see you being that disappointed with the record, although how could you be disappointed with a surprise album because you had no time to build hype? But as far as my feelings overall, I like aspects of the record. I'm a little bit torn on it. It's a little boring in places. Overall, for Music to Be Murdered By, his 11th studio album, I'm rating this a strong 3 out of 5. But I want to know, what do you guys think? Honest opinions, fire away in the comment section down below. Appreciate you tuning in for the review today. If you haven't done so already, drop a like on the video and subscribe for the love of music. If you haven't seen my top 10 favorite Eminem songs, then tap this card here, or tap here for my Kamikaze review. All of my socials that you see here can be found in the description down below along with my Patreon, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.